this because you guys are just amazing to me.
Thank you.
I want to ask, because you're saying it was just easy. And from a spiritual standpoint, for me, God makes it easy. When that person is for you, he makes it so easy. Everything comes easy. So that's my dilemma of, God, you lined all this up. And I know it was nothing but God. But I'm here in this situation where it's like, what do I do now? I know that you lined it up, so I have to put on my faith and trust in him to know that he'll work it out. But I'm just all over the place about it. But I love the creation of your relationship because God put it together. You know what I'm saying? So was there a rocky part in it or no?
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, there were a lot of rocky parts.
Yeah. So when she says easy, I think a more appropriate term is probably
grace. There was
I like grace, but a more non-spiritual term is compatibility.
Yeah.
We were compatible in a lot of ways, and so the reality is that we grew up in two different households. Like, I came from a two-parent household. My parents were married for 30-some-odd years by that time. My grandparents are still married. They've been married 70-something years, right? So I saw stability. She didn't come from that type of background. So there were things that I kind of had exposure to and experience with, and then there were things that she had exposure to and experience with. But the real crux of a relationship is not, can you handle a person when everything is sweet? The real question we have to ask ourselves about our relationships is, can I deal with their dude?
Yeah.
Deal with that. Like, do I have the wherewithal to handle the ugly parts? The parts that hopefully change as a result of having a relationship with the Lord, right? But what if this is just their fight for the rest of their life on earth? Do you have enough maturity and sense to cover them in prayer, but also challenge them and recognize that I have to be built for not just the beautiful things, but I got to be built for the ugly things as well. And so it's an understatement to say that there were rocky times, because you got to understand, I was a philanderer. Like, women was a sport to me. Like, I don't know any other way to communicate that. And she had a pretty promiscuous background as well, right? So now here we are, two individuals saved, young in the Lord, trying to live for the Lord, really trying to keep my penis in my pants and her legs closed, right? But there was an attraction to each other because we're human. And so I want to caution the individuals who are maybe not married but engaged or dating. You need accountability, because you're fooling yourself if you think you're going to be around a person who you believe is supposed to be for you, and you're attracted to them and not think that it's going to go down. It's going down. Right. That's just the reality. And then don't mess around. Don't mess around. And don't mess around and have it be enjoyable and you like it. Because now it's a trap. It's a trap.
You ain't going nowhere.
But here's the key though. That makes it more difficult to discern what the Lord is saying.
Right.
Because let's just say that she wasn't for me and I wasn't for her. Now we gotta untangle the soul tie.
Right.
And now we gotta untangle what was me, what was God, what was the flesh, what was Satan, right? And so I just thank God that there was grace, but there are some things that followed us into our relationship.
Absolutely.
It followed us, and we thought we had dealt with them, and every now and again those things would rear their ugly head. But there was one time we were going to celebrate our anniversary one year. We were going to the Poconos, and the kids were acting crazy, and she just wasn't really up for it. And I'm like, yo, that's even more of the reason why we need to get away. And we kind of had a blow up. But this was the revelation that the Lord gave us, and I had to put it to her this way. I said, I'm not your enemy.
Amen.
There is an enemy that desires to destroy us individually and collectively. But we have to understand that even when we fight, we're not each other's enemy. So we have to fight fair. We have to fight a certain way. We have to understand that we're fighting against principalities, powers, evil rulers of the darkness of this world, and spiritual wickedness in high places. And I'd be lying.
Amen, brother.
There were times that I allowed Satan to use me because I can get in the flesh. And there are times that Satan has used her because she can get in the flesh. But
We all can.
Absolutely. But this is where you have to have the word of God, the words of God, and Holy Spirit to be the common denominator. Because it's not a matter of who's right and who's wrong. It's a matter of us getting it right and getting it right according to his standard.
This is why we have to. Yes, I can't settle. I need a man who believes in Jesus Christ. So yes, thank you. This is confirmation for me. Thank you.
So what I want to do now is I want to talk to the men who are currently, like Rashad. What was about her that you were just like, I'm going to marry her because you've never been married? Go ahead, Rashad.
She's actually the opposite. She's the opposite of what I actually like. To piggyback off what Toby said, we're definitely opposites. We're on two totally different ends of the spectrum in every way. So, and for those that know us, still trying to figure out how we're even together. And I think that's what makes it actually work. That's why it works, actually. Believe it or not.
So, okay, so when did you decide that, okay, I'm going to ask this woman to marry? Because where I'm coming from a point where there are single women on the line, so, and, even men on the line, how did you decide that, okay, out of all the women, that I'm going to marry this person?
Similar to like Toby's story, when I first met her, I told her I was going to marry her when I first met her. And I've never, even since then, I've never even told another woman I even haven't thoughts of even wanting to marry her.
So it was something about her when you first, so you knew instantly?
Instantly.
Okay.
But when I very first met her, and within 6 months from us just first meeting, I told her that, and then we didn't see each other again for 13 years. And then we linked back up together after 13 years, and here we are now. So I really feel like it was actually meant to be.
Okay, now we need to hear from, Adriana? Adriana? Now, yeah. How did you end up with Rashad?
And everybody says it the same way. Honestly, I ended up with him because of his persistence. I don't think he said it, but I was 16 years old when I first met him.
I'm only 4 years older than her.
I know, she sounds like you were a molester.
I'm only 4 years older than her.
I was about to say, Rashad, you might need to be in jail.
I'm only 4 years older than her. Don't make that sound like some creep shit. And I waited till she got older and came back. Like, you grown now. What's up? That's not how that went, y'all.
Okay.
Yeah. So we were kids, but I was 16, and actually just first looking at him, it was like, he looked like a bit too much for me. And of course, my mom was like, absolutely not. Do not come past that driveway. And like you said, I mean, didn't see him for like 13 years. He reached out on Facebook, and I was like, oh, hey, I remember meeting you when I was little, whatever. And we just talked long distance for a few years. We kept in touch long distance. And there was a point in time when I just said, this is not for me. And I went away for like a year. Didn't want nothing to do with him, wouldn't speak to him. But he was pretty persistent. Continued to like text, call every now and then. He just didn't go away.
So he wore you down.
The one thing was, even over the years of us talking, but like being together, not being together, nothing he ever said changed. from day one. Nothing he ever said, he didn't change his tune at all. He was very persistent. He was very consistent in what he said he wanted. And regardless, even when I said I'm done, I don't want to be bothered, it never changed.
So, do you feel that by you taking some time off from him, it made you, kind of reconsider? What made you say, okay, I'm going to give this one more shot?
Shut up. Actually, okay, so I did try to date when I figured I didn't want to deal with him. And I found that he and I actually had a good friendship. There was nobody that I came across that I could talk to the way I could talk to him. And I realized, like, I can be myself 110% with him. There's no type of airs. There's no, I have to be prim and proper. I have to do things this way. I can't respond that way. Like, I am totally 110% myself, and he's good with it.
In a nutshell, not to, pat myself on the back, and me and Toby and the other fellas on here, the pickings are real slim. So for the female who said she's looking for a man, listen, I'm trying to be funny, but listen, I'm gonna talk my talk right now.
Go ahead, talk
the
it.
The pickings are very slim out here, and I'm keeping it real.
Wait, for men or women, Rashad? For men or women?
For
women.
Right.
It
is. And then so like you.
I think that's both ways.
Well, I'm just saying.
Pretty true there, Rashad. Pretty true.
It is it is, but when I say overall, when I say slim, I meant like a complete man. And I meant that in every way, shape, form, and fashion. Like a man's man. It ain't too many out here.
Especially in Atlanta.
A lot of men claim to be men, but they're not women.
You are absolutely right.
They do. A lot of men claim to be men, but they're not. They're not. I mean,
but I think it depends on also how you want to meet a man. To me, I have learned to have a spiritual connection, to let God spiritually guide me, because we can meet people and think they are it, and then you find out they're not it. They're like, you kind of get discouraged, but at the same time, I have to take into consideration, maybe I met this person to learn something from this person, and to figure out what I do, am willing to accept, and what I'm not willing to accept, because we all got to accept something from somebody. Everything, none of us is perfect. There's always going to be something that we're not going to like, but are you willing to deal with that in your relationship?
Good.
Right. So I want to hear from, is it Tyrese? Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so tell me, I know you said you guys were friends. Tell me when you decided, like, okay, now you guys are in a relationship. As a woman, were you, at that time, I know, were you single? You were single, and then you guys started dating?
So I wasn't quite single. We were friends, and I was actually engaged. He was trying to help me plan the wedding, supposed to cook, so he was laying it on pretty thick, like I said, as my friend. So some of the qualities that he was displaying as my friend and even as a provider for his family, I compared him to my fiance at the time, and it was night and day. So he asked me one day, are you okay with living with this for the rest of your life? And that was my moment of truth, and looking at my current situation and saying, no, I did not want to go forth with getting married to the person I was engaged to. And so I called that off, and then we continued on as friends, and then evolved into a relationship. So initially, I wasn't even checking for him like that, but that moment of truth made me start looking at him, looking at my current situation, and then eventually looking at him like, well, this is something that I would like for the rest of my life versus what I have.
How long should a woman wait for you to choose her? Let me just say that. How long should a woman wait?
Can I answer that question?
Yes, go ahead.
That question kind of seems biased, but I do want to say that there's some things that have to take place before anyone should really consider marriage at all. I just want to say you have to be a happy individual within yourself first, and then you bring that happiness with you. And there's no time limit. It can take place as fast as God wants it to. But the point is, we should not be looking to each other for our happiness. We should be happy and then bring that to the relationship to share. And when we share our happiness, that's what keeps us together, you know. But also, we should get to a place where we love each other, whether the other one changes or never changes. We have to love each other just the way we are, so that if he changes for the better, that's great. If she changes for the better, that's great. But the right time to get married is not, after we become perfect. The right time to get married is when you can't stand each other, but you love each other enough to stay together. When you go through some things. You shouldn't be getting married if you haven't been through anything either, But my happiness is not contingent upon how long she is a certain way, how long I'm a certain way. I'm happy as an individual, and I bring my happiness with me. And together we share that. And I'm sure you guys heard, if we're both going after God, then it's going to draw us closer anyhow.
Right. No, that's a great point.
That was good, Bass. If I could add something to add an addendum, something that we picked up from our father in the ministry, Bishop T. Anthony Bronner. He spoke about the importance of being around and with each other through multiple seasons.
Okay.
So I'm just going to use the 4 seasons that we're aware of as an analogy. Let's just say that the summer season is the beautiful time, right? So it's easy to be with somebody in the summer, but how do you handle them and how do they handle you during the winter seasons of their life? And then how do you handle each other during the spring season? And how do you handle each other through the fall season? So I'm using seasons as an analogy of how is this person when things aren't going their way? How is this person when their back is against the wall?
Yeah, do they lash out? Do they, start throwing things? Or are they, calm? Are they going to sit and, talk about it? So that's important.
How is this season when the finances are beautiful? How is this season when you don't have bread and the money's acting funny? How is this season if you're bringing kids into the relationship? How is this season when the baby mama or the baby daddy is acting the nut? How are they handling that season? And so I believe firmly that in America specifically, we do for better very good. But we don't do for worse good at all. We come into relationship with a contingency plan already. We come in, I swear, bo, and so
Well, Toby, now, why did you have to do that? No, Toby, like, I am insulted for you to even go there.
Right.
Because you did not have to go there because...
time to not put the toilet seat down.
One more question, though. The person original question talk about for them to act right. And for me, infidelity is just like the ultimate betrayal. So
what I will say to that is you have to have your non-negotiable.
Okay, that's where I was going to see.
But this is just it. This is just it. Something that my grandparents' generation had, we don't. When they said, "To death do we part," they meant that.
Right. Yes, they did.
So you, in your relationship, have to determine what's the non-negotiable. And sometimes you don't know what the non-negotiable is until you're confronted with it.
Yeah. So I think it's good to talk about that too in the beginning. Yeah, that's what I was meaning about expectations, because if we sit down and I say infidelity is not a go, then we know that. So
but I have
go ahead.
I think 2 people want to talk about infidelity right now.
So I want to backtrack just a little bit, Toby. absolutely, and I'm sorry, I don't want to derail the program, but you mentioned going through seasons. That's absolutely true. However, most people are offering their representative. So how do you know once you've gone through some true seasons, and I'm not just dealing with your representative, and the true you has not come out yet?
I think it's important for us to understand that marriage is an investment. And if you know anything about investments take time to get a return on your investment. But I think there are a lot of us that are ready to get, we're ready to have the wedding, but not prepared for the marriage. And so because many of us don't exercise temperance, self-discipline or patience, we put these time frames on stuff, and we hear phrases like this in our culture: my biological clock is ticking, so I gotta hurry up and make this happen.
Right.
But the Bible said, be anxious for nothing.
Amen. Come on now.
Be anxious for nothing.
So, but Toby.
And so a lot of times what happens is our anxiety gets the best of us. And because we can't control our vessels, what we're really looking for is some legal booty. Or we're looking for something to go in that direction because we've been taught poor doctrine. We've been taught it is better to marry than to burn. No. It's best to get some accountability and exercise some temperance and get to know who you're about to get into a relationship with.
Right.
That's true.
It's best to do that. But to my point, what I would tell my daughter is study him. Watch him. You ain't got to wait on nobody because see, there's actually technically there should be four phases, right? You have your dating, you have your courting, you have your engagement, and then you have marriage. We blur those lines so much that we don't give each of those phases enough opportunity to breathe and develop.
Right.
So while we're dating, that's just it. We date. We go on dates. And until we decide that we're exclusive, we're just dating. And then you go from dating to courting, meaning I got eyes for you, and you say you got eyes for me, and I may still be seeing what's out there, but my intention is for you. And then once we decide, okay, now let's get engaged, that means we are making a pact with each other. We basically sealing this deal, but you could flip out during the engagement. And I could have been dating and courting your representative.
Mm-hmm.
But now we're engaged, and now I'm about to really see who I'm really with. But this is just it. We may get married, right? And I really wasn't dating the representative, but this person may have never experienced something traumatic. And they may not know how they're going to respond to the death of a child or the death of a parent. So now this person becomes a totally different person.
Mm-hmm.
And so they've never had to negotiate how they were going to cope with the loss of a parent or the loss of a child. They didn't know that they would start drinking. They didn't know that they would start smoking. They didn't know that they would be entertained by the lust of somebody else who looked dope because you haven't been giving her compliments or he hasn't been giving you compliments the way that he used to or she used to. This is real life stuff.
Right.
But what's key is transparency and honesty and effective communication. And so there are some things that I tell my wife that I know she doesn't want to know. But I need her to know.
Right.
Because I need her to know how to cover me. It has nothing to do with her needing to feel insecure or I got eyes for somebody else. As much as I'm spirit-filled and a prophet and all that beautiful stuff in Jesus, I still live in this earthly tent. And as much as she's sold out and she's a prophetess and a teacher, she still lives in a fleshly body.
Right.
And we got to be honest with that and know what kind of fight we're up against because the reality is this, Rashad and Adriana, when you say I do, that's when all hell breaks loose.
Mm-hmm.
Now, can I say something?
Absolutely. Hey, in the back, what's up?
when God in the Bible, God's word says, Jesus says, my what am I doing?
It's a party.
You know how Jesus says, my burden is light and my yoke is easy. I believe that's a lot of, I mean, it's light, but it can go hand in hand definitely with marriage, especially guys saying make sure you're evenly yoked, because like you're saying, you don't know how someone will act when they lose a parent or a child, and that's where there's that balance. You know what I'm saying? When it's a God-made marriage, there's always that balance of, okay, she's down, I'm here for her. You're down, I'm here for him. So I don't think even though it'll be hard, I don't think it'll be that hard, because you're gonna be that and she's gonna be that. You know what I'm saying? When it's rough, I got you. When it's rough, you got me type of deal. When it's a God-made marriage. So have you guys seen that being that it's a God-made marriage?
Well,
I'll
let Chris answer this, but I also want to be fair to non-believers, because I think one thing that believers do is we make it seem like you got to be saved in order to have a successful marriage.
And you don't, right?
And that's true. That's not true, because I know people that are not saved that have been married for 70, 80 years.
Right.
They're just in agreement, because the Bible says, how can two walk together except they be in agreement?
Yeah, they implement certain principles. Be kind, be loving, be caring.
Yeah.
As long as you implement principles, godly principles, but you're not necessarily
professing Christ.
Exactly. So as long as you're implementing those principles, you can have a successful marriage.
Right. Now,
so the divorce rate is the same whether you're in Christ or not.
Say that again, brother.
The divorce rate is 50% of all marriages, whether you're in Christ or not.
This is true. And so, to that point, our marriages should look different than non-believers, because Paul also spoke about us having a ministry of reconciliation. And I don't know if you guys noticed this, but it seems like every Hollywood marriage divorces, and the reason is irreconcilable differences.
Yeah.
And so my question is always, how is it irreconcilable? Because what it really boils down to is, do you want your marriage to work? And are you willing to put the work in for the marriage to work? When you come into a marriage with these contingencies, and you come into this marriage looking for an exit strategy,
right,
you're going to want to bounce at the first sight of difficulty. What people don't understand is that we romanticize the cross, right? We wear it around our neck. We have steeples, and so we think the cross is a pretty thing. But the cross is actually a representation of one of the most gruesome and ugly things in human history. So I say that to say this. Sometimes in order for a marriage to be beautiful, it has to get ugly first. It's like childbirth. For all of the mothers on here who had children, and all of the fathers who were present for the childbirth, that is an ugly scene.
Can I say something?
Yes, sir. Please do.
I'm learning how to use this thing. I just want to address a couple of things real quick. Coming from the fact of, like I told you guys, we've been together 15 years, married 14. And to the young lady who made a comment about, what she said about infidelity and stuff like that. And that's one of the things, that's one of her unnegotiables. I want to kind of address this with us personally. Everybody, I believe, once you get married, when you're talking, I believe that everybody, quote unquote, has infidelity as one of their non-negotiable. But I got to be real with you. This is life, like Toby said. You still are in the eye. You still are. Even if you're a believer, you can know every scripture in the Bible. But when that dude walked by with that cologne and you at work, and you're spending 40, 60 hours at work, or that woman walks by at work and, things start happening. And you don't intend to commit adultery or to cheat or anything like that. But the whole point of it is when that infidelity comes, what are you going to do? How are you going to respond? And that's the thing that we have to really get down and dirty with. Between me and my wife, we've been through literally almost everything. And we hate to say this, but when we do marriage counseling down here, we talk to people. We've been through the loss of a parent. I lost my father. We've been through infidelity. We've been through lying. We've been through sickness. My wife was going through cancer treatments for 6 months. And you can say everything you want to say. Oh, I'm going to do this, and, I'm with you here, and I'm going to support you here. But when you go through that, when my wife was going through cancer treatments, and I had to literally carry her from the car, carry her all the way upstairs, guess what? And I'm being real. Guess what? I still had a sexual desire. So what do I do when my wife can't fulfill my sexual desires for a week or 2 weeks at a time? Right. I love my wife, but what am I going to do? Because she can't do that. Or take this as an example. When you're broke, you see your husband working, striving 60, 80 hours a week. And my wife going to work and she's seeing the dude ride the whip, got the cash, got the money, doing all of this stuff. And it's like, am I still going to be, it's a battle. It's a struggle. And that's the thing. People don't really want to be real about it. I can say we've been together 14 years, but guess what? 7 or 8 of them years been hard. And I'm not about to sit here and lie to you. And I used to always want to throw in the towel and be like, you know what? Forget it. I'm leaving. Let's just get a divorce. I said that probably 100 times until that one time when she pulled my card and was like, you know what? Go. And immediately I'm looking like a deer in headlights. Like, where I'm going to go? She about to take half. What's going to happen with the kid? I mean, these are the things. And we had to come to an agreement to say, look, the word divorce no longer exists in our relationship. Plain and simple. Right. And it's a thin line between total disrespect. If somebody continues to cheat over and over, that's different. But like Toby said, if you're open and you're able to communicate and say, hey, you know what, babe, I have a struggle. There was a struggle that I had. I'm going to end after this. There was a struggle that I was dealing with for years, a secret struggle. I was praying about this thing. God, take this thing away from me. Take this thing away from me. And guess what? I will be good one day and struggle with it again tomorrow. It wasn't until I finally confessed it to my wife. I used to look at myself and say, I'm going to die with this thing. I'm never going to get over this thing. But it was when I finally confessed it to my wife, was embarrassed about it. I was worried about how she's going to react, how she's going to look at me, how she's going to respond. But literally, and my wife can attest to this, when I confessed it to her, it wasn't even a problem for me. And I was looking like, this is all I had to do.
Wow. Wow.
And expose it. And that's the thing. A lot of people stay in bondage because they're too afraid to expose it.
Right.
The bondage is not what you're doing. The bondage is the secret that you're trying to keep.
Right.
You're too busy trying to hold on to it. You're too busy trying to disguise it. You're too busy trying to hide it from people. Guess what? You got an issue 10 times worse than yours.
Right.
Where do I send my offering?
And if you finally take the mask off and say, hey, when I literally said, hey, babe, I struggle with this, and it's hard. Guess what? I had to take the password off my phone. So where she can come in and pick my phone up and go through my phone anytime. I had to deal with the rough conversation where you say, hey, did you look at this today? Did you do this today? It had to be, am I going to lie? Or I'm going to say, yeah, I did it. So now it's to the point where I can come to my wife and say, you know what? I had a bad day. The thing that I struggle with isn't gone. But the thing that I struggle with is brought to the forefront now. So before we can move on to what's going to be for dinner, we have to say, hey, how was your day mentally, spiritually, and emotionally? So that way she can dictate how to deal with me for the rest of the 23 hours of the day, whether she has to pray with me, whether she has to laugh, whether she has to cry with me, whether we got to push the plate aside and say, hey, we need to go into the prayer closet today.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I want to say.
Well, that's a good point. One thing that I want to say again, as for these you guys who are in relationships, how where I'm talking for the women who are single, how do we know that you're serious about us? How do we know that you're going to choose me if I sit around and wait, or if I'm, a good woman to you? How long is too long? Or what's the message as far as like what are the indicators that he's serious about me or whatever? What, Rashad? Rashad, what did you say?
Any man that's serious about you.
I said relocating for a woman.
I still couldn't hear. He said relocate.
Yeah, I was going to say, any man that's serious about you will want to spend time with you. He will want to be around you. So it's one of those things where if he's really into you, he can't stand being away from you. Okay. That'll be his conversation. That'll be, he'll always be trying to see what you need, always trying to come around to provide whatever it is you need and just be around you.
And he'll relocate for you.
Oh, God.
That's the epitome of trying to be around you.
How long did it take you to relocate, Rashad?
Oh,
great question.
I still didn't fully relocate, but it took me, truth be told, it took me,
yeah, exactly.
It took me truthfully it took me like 6 years.
What? Damn.
You know he gonna mention that relocation in them vows.
Can I address that question, please? I think that's if you want to be honest, an unfair question because every relationship is different. But what I will say is this. I believe that number one, if you're looking to get that serious or into a relationship, man can't answer that. You have to ask God, and you have to seek God's faith for that. And And the reason that I'm saying is because guess what? The reason that a man may wait 4 or 5 years is because he may have in his mind he wants to be financially stable to take care of his wife, and his wife, he don't want his wife to work. So if his fiance, if they talk about that and they say, hey, okay, we want to wait 5 years, this is our 5-year plan that we're both working toward, or this is the way I want it to go, then okay, it's fine with waiting. But women, if you see a man who's sexing you, asking you, requiring you to do wifey things, who ain't talking about a ring, who ain't trying to do nothing, or keeps giving you the runaround, you can kind of tell the difference between somebody who's really good and somebody who's really not.
Right.
And so the number one thing that I feel you need to do is, number one, seek God. Because every relationship is different. Everything, I mean, it's too many variables that you can throw in there to change. Like me and my wife had planned to get married one time, and we had to change it. We had to go through, change all the plans and change different things. And it could have looked like I backed out, or it could have looked like she backed out. But going back to the main key focus is communication. Marriages and relationships don't fail. If you look at the studies, it's not about infidelity. It's not about money. It's about communication. And when you can't communicate effectively, it throws too many monkey wrenches into the whole entire equation, to where I'm assuming what she's doing, she's assuming what I'm doing. So she's going over this way to try to do this to help me. I'm going this way. And the whole time, neither one of us need that, or neither one of us wanted that. And that we need to learn each other's love language. And people take that as a joke. But I was just about to say that. Love in different ways. Some people need to be responded to in different ways.
Right.
And if that man is trying to propose to you or trying to get married to you, maybe he or she may be waiting to see if you can love them the way that they need to be loved.
Right.
It's all about communicating.
I want to add something to that too. I'm going to answer it spirit, soul, body, and finance. Spiritually, you tell a tree by the fruit it bears.
Okay.
Soulishly, what is their conversation like? How are they acting towards you emotionally? Are they willing to move from a city to your city? And then naturally, I would employ my sisters to keep their legs closed and see how long he stay around.
That's a great point.
Oh, they don't stay around long. I've been doing that. They don't stay.
Exactly. That's my point.
So that's why I'm fine. Like, I'm fine with it because that's something that I want to try differently. But it's hard when you don't. I'm not a social media person. So it's like a lot of times I'm just working or home. So at the same time, everybody be like, oh, what do you think? Somebody gonna come knock at your door? But I feel like what is wrong with meeting someone the old-fashioned way and not on Snapchat or Instagram? I don't have Facebook. I have an Instagram, but what is wrong with actually meeting somebody and actually communicating with them? Not them texting me. I really don't like texting. I text if I have to, but it's like it's very hard out there to date because of social media. I feel like.
Well, let me play Angel's Advocate, Nisha. But before that, I gotta answer the financial point. Is he investing? Is he investing in you? Period. Is he investing in your dreams? Is he investing in your vision? Is he willing to? And then vice versa. Are you willing to invest in his? But Nisha, what it sounds like, and I gotta be honest, it sounds like you're not flexible. Because there is nothing wrong with it. Huh?
Keep going.
With the whole social media thing?
Yeah, because there's nothing wrong with meeting old-fashioned, but what's wrong with using technology that's available to us to try something different, too?
I tried it, and it was overwhelming.
Right, so now you just got to reach out to somebody who has best practices that has done it successfully and see how they did it. Because I know married people who they met on social media, so maybe find out what did they do, what did they look out for, how did they navigate it, how did they approach the situation, because there are people who are just meeting those ways now. So it's hard to put God in a box.
Oh, I know that. I've been single for 8 years.
I wanted to comment on the how do you know how long to wait, or how do you know when she's the one. The way I knew that he wanted to be here was because he was always here. He just wanted to be there. And I was a single parent at one time and, struggling financially. And this one time in particular, I knew that he really had, some feelings for me. I really wanted to be there when my gas and electric got cut off. And the kids and I were in the house for like, a week or so. And he was there. He came from a stable house. His house had lights. His house had all this stuff. And I was thinking to myself, he really doesn't have to sit here and go through this with me. But it's like he was there and he wanted to be there. And so that spoke volumes to me.
A man that wants you, he gonna show you. He ain't gonna just tell you.
Absolutely. Right. That was my point. Rashad, that's what I was gonna say. Don't watch what they say. Watch what they do.
Right.
Period.
Because we say a lot of stuff.
I know. That's why I'm single. Because I watch what y'all do.
But you know what? It's more about what, like you guys said earlier, what your deal breakers are.
Right.
And for me, I had to understand what it was that I really needed. Because I was one of those people who had a list. Literally a list. And everybody would always tease me like, girl, if you don't throw that list away, you're not going to get everything on that list. It was like Toby had. I know what you're supposed to look like. I know you need the education. You need this. You need that. And
I'm not that. And guess what? Toby, you know what? And I'm gonna start out with the most basic one. If you start on her list if she was listed 1 to 20, the very first thing I don't even fit. Guess what it is?
A degree?
He like dark skin dudes. He like dark skin dudes.
I'm still developing. I'm something new every day. But what doesn't change is the fact that I realize I have to be able to be me at all times. I have to bite my tongue every day at work. There are people on the outside that I have to watch how I move, watch what I say, watch how I do things. I don't want to do that in my house. I don't want to do that in my relationship. I want to be 100% me. I want to be genuine. I want to be authentic in the moment and not have to worry about it. If I feel like I want to try something new and grow in a different way, I need you to be there and support me with that.
Right. Yeah,
Okay?
that's all.
Encourage me with that.
Right.
And that's something that he has always done. As far as time goes, people used to say, well, people would tell me a man knows in 6 months if he wants to marry a woman or not. Someone tell, I'm not waiting more than 3 years. I'm not waiting more than 5 years. We dated long distance for like 5 years, like literally dated. What kept me sane was I didn't worry about what he was doing when he wasn't with me. We're dating. It is what it is.
Right.
When you're here and you're with me, I love the way it feels.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
About anything. I'm not afraid of anything, including him. You know what I mean? So, to me, there is no time limit. Don't put yourself on a time limit. It's too long when you feel like it's too long.
Oh, you know what? That's a great point because I'm somebody who works on deadlines and timelines. And I'm like, if this didn't happen by this time, I am on, like I am very strict with timelines. I'm struggling with trying to be like, okay, let me just, I don't know. That's hard for me. The timeline thing.
No, but you know what? I feel like this. When you're with somebody and it naturally begins to feel like it's right, and if you feel like you're ready to have that conversation, I would say bring it up and have that conversation and see what that reaction is. If that reaction doesn't sit right with you, then maybe you need to think about, okay, well, maybe I don't need to stick around too long.
Right, and that's a great point.
Like for him, like I would play around and like bring it up, and he'd be like, "Oh, girl, hush! I told you I was gonna marry you when I first met you."
Oh, okay.
I meant that. Even when I didn't want to deal with him, I was like, "Go away." He'd be like, "Girl, you my wife. I'm gonna be my wife." And you know what my response would be? Yeah, okay.
This definitely was, I think, a great first start. I definitely think so.
Yeah.
So, to leave with, anybody have any final things that they want to end with?
Yeah.
Can I say something?
Yeah, I got something.
What the hell does Rashad have to say? What?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Rashad, just say it. Congratulations, you're getting married, finally. Damn.
Let me tell you, hey, listen, I'm going to just say this. Patience and prayer, because I'm going to just, like, we always talk about the infidelity thing, and I can just go ahead because most people here already know me. If you want to test if you really want to test your relationship, and I hate to put it this way, I done been to prison. And while I was in prison, I'm be honest with you, I wasn't even thinking about like what she was doing along those lines at the end of the day, because that's not really like something I was really stressing, because I don't equate like we're human. So I don't let that that would sway no way like my feelings for her, my love for her in no way, shape, form, or fashion if it was some infidelity, because I'm like that's just like I don't stress that like to that extent, like not me personally though.
So that's what you wanted to add? Infidelity
in prison, or is it okay for infidelity now?
No, I'm saying
either
like,
way.
No, I'm just saying like being in prison, like that's one of the most stressful times being in a relationship.
Right? Yeah, I would think.
See what I'm saying? So
the moral of the story is don't go to prison.
No, I'm just saying.
Because then she got the green light, yeah. And it don't count. That's off the record.
Stay your ass out of prison. How about that?